Hi, this is James Cooley with Tahoe RV Rentals, and we're here to show you around how to do some off-grid camping in one of our units. This happens to be one of our 26-foot models. We have it set up with a generator and a solar panel. We're here to answer some questions for you. These are the most common questions we have and what we would typically do for a little walkthrough if we saw you in person. So yeah, we'll just start with the solar panel because we're standing here. Solar panels are really straightforward. You just move them around and keep them in the sun. They do a really good job of charging your batteries, which keeps your basics running in your unit. I'm going to show you the generator here in a minute. That runs some of your other items. But the solar panel, you can just pick it up, move it around, lean it on the front of the RV. Whatever makes sense with the sun. Obviously it does a little better job charging the batteries if it's pointed in the sun. But they do work in indirect light as well. Let's set this back up. Let me show you the generator back here. So we do have a couple different kinds of generators. This one's a Yamaha, probably the most common one you'll see in our fleet, but we do have a couple Hondas and a few others as well. They're all relatively straightforward. You basically just come over here and start them up. Now it's going to charge your batteries. It'll also run your microwave, your TV, your air conditioner, fireplace, or any household plugs, anything you got plugged into the wall. They're really easy to start up. Just come over here and find the choke button. This one happens to be a little knob you pull out, but pull the choke, and I'm going to turn the starter on, and I'm going to push the choke back in. You'll also notice there's a little switch here that says economy. Turn it on, it'll throttle it down. It's good for charging batteries. You're not using any high wattage items. You can turn it to off, it'll throttle up, and that's better when you're running your air conditioner. Occasionally, if you're running your air conditioner, you may run into issues with the generator overloading, especially if you're running other items with your air conditioner, which we don't recommend. The air conditioners almost max these generators out on their own, so try to eliminate running any high wattage items with the air conditioner. You may come out to know that it's overloaded. There's often a red dot. This red dot will be lit up, and that cuts power to the RV, but the generator stays running. The answer to this is just turn everything off, including your air conditioner and the generator. Come out, start your generator first, and then restart your air conditioner, and don't run any other items with it. These generators do come full of gas, as well as we have 5 gallons of gas associated with your RV. Try to keep them a good distance away so you don't heat up the gas with your exhaust fumes or anything. We will charge you for any gas that you burn. Otherwise, you're welcome to refill these yourselves with premium gas. And, we can go ahead and hop in the unit here. So you'll notice by the front door here, you should have a lockbox. Just go ahead and pop this little door open. Combination is 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's put that in, and sometimes I kind of lift on this faceplate just a hair while I'm pulling on it. Sometimes they're a little tricky and they're a little quirky. They can get a little bit stuck, but if you play with it, you should be able to open it up, no problem. You'll find a couple purple keys and a small silver key typically. The purple keys, there's one to each door, and they are different. The silver key is going to be to your storage compartments. I always recommend that you only use the deadbolt, which is the bottom of these two locks on each lock. That keeps you from locking yourself out of the unit. I'm going to go ahead and unlock it. Make sure I find the right key. Open that up. Also, one more thing with the lockbox. Feel free to toss the keys in there when you guys are finished up. Our checkout time is 10 a.m. We don't need to be here for you guys to take off. Feel free to take off at your leisure as long as it's before 10 a.m. Go ahead and hop on inside. So you'll notice over here there's a handful of light switches. Typically on the side of the cabinet right when you walk in the door. But look for some black light switches. One of the black light switches is going to run most of these main cabin lights. Notice that there's also a light switch on each light itself. So if you're having any issues with the lights, feel free to look for another light switch over here on the wall, or vice versa, look on the light switch itself. There's also a couple blue switches often, one of which is going to be outside underneath this awning, and it's really useful at night. It's a little hard to see in the day, but you will notice it at night for sure. They also work a lot better If you come over and find the awning extend button and roll it out even 3 inches or so, it really kind of shadows that light. The awning, just feel free to hit awning extend and roll it out. Make sure there's nothing in the way. A couple things to point out is that you are responsible for this awning. Any reason it can bend, break, rip, tear, anything like that, heavy rain, wind, etc. You are responsible for it, so make sure it's rolled in. If there's any reasons it can get damaged. Another thing I do is I stop as soon as that black tube turns to white and there's a little flap that hangs down. Any further out, it's more prone to bending and breaking. There's really no need to. Yeah, just stop as soon as you see that little white flap hanging, and you shouldn't have any issues. And make sure it's rolled in if you guys are not around. One of the most important things to pay attention to on the RV when you guys are off-grid is going to be this little control panel. There's 2 red switches and a handful of buttons on it. There's a number of different things this controls. These buttons up top are going to tell you what your battery levels are, what your freshwater levels and waste tank levels are. You got to really be careful to pace your usage throughout your stay. There's not a great solution to refilling or emptying these tanks during your stay. These units come with about 40 gallons of fresh water in this 26-footer. Some of the smaller units will have smaller tanks, and then the larger units may have slightly larger tanks, but it does go faster than people expect. So to check for example, your freshwater levels, I'm just going to hold down fresh, and this one is actually empty right now. So this one will need to be refilled, but yours should come full when we drop off your RV. To check your battery levels, hold down battery. This one's at 2/3 at the moment. You want to make sure you're going to bed with 2/3 battery or better. You can always run your generator, or make sure to place that solar panel in the sun to really get a good charge. You can't have issues if your batteries die in the middle of the night. You get alarms that go off. You got to check your waste level tank. Your black, for example, is empty, which is what you would like. The gray right now is full, which when you rent, it should show up empty. Gray 2 is going to be your kitchen sink, I believe. Some of them will say galley, and some of them won't even have a second gray tank. But this one's also full, but yours will show empty when you first get your RV delivered. There's 2 red switches here. One is your water pump. You just flip that guy on anytime you want to use water pressure. That basically, there's a rumble in the back of the RV, and it should turn off unless you're running water. If that pump stays running, you're most likely out of fresh water. Just go ahead and come over here and flip it off. To get water warm for the water heater, just flip this switch. You'll notice the small red dot turns on, and about 10 or 15 seconds later, the red dot should go out, telling you that it lit properly. And then 10 or 15 minutes after that, you should get hot water. So basically, just turn this switch on 10 or 15 minutes before you need hot water. I'm going to turn that off just because we don't need to leave it on to burn propane. Let me show you the stereo here. The stereos do have zone 1 and zone 2. They are inside and outside speakers. You can turn them on and off individually, so you might be playing music to your neighbors. There's also a Bluetooth button if you want to Bluetooth your phone. The combination will be all zeros to that when it asks on your phone. They're a little tricky, but usually people can figure it out. But just the combination will be all zeros. Off-grid, you typically don't have a lot of TV reception, so we don't worry too much about that on off-grid rentals. I'm going to point out a light switch down here. This light switch here, you have to pick between your microwave and your fireplace. It's an amperage issue with the RVs, but just know that that switch exists, and if you want to use your fireplace, you have to switch it down to the fireplace, and if you want to use your microwave, switch it up to the microwave. Let me show you the dinette here. If you guys need to make the dinette into a bed, all we're going to do is go ahead and just pick this table up, pull the table off of the poles remove. You can lay the poles on the ground, and then the table will actually sit on this little lip right here, and you can fold all the cushions flat. It makes a nice comfortable bed for somebody. We typically will have the refrigerator set in the proper locations for you on off-grid camping. No lights will mean that everything is working properly. If the fridge isn't totally cold when you arrive, it's probably because we just turned it on. Give it a couple hours before you call us and let us know it's not cooling down. They typically will catch up, especially if you load them with warm groceries. It takes a little bit longer. If you're going to cook on the oven, just make sure you flip the glass back out of the way, like so. These tops are expensive when they shatter when you try and cook on top of them. And all you do to light the burners is you're just going to crack the gas valve here, click the sparker a few times, it should fire up for you. The ovens are a little bit more difficult. We're going to open up the oven. I'm going to turn this knob to the pilot position, and I'm going to hold it in with my right hand. And if you look under here, there's a pilot light in the very back. I have to click the sparker a handful of times. It does take a few seconds to light while I'm still holding down the knob on the right. You see now it just barely lit. Continue to hold this on the right hand side for about 5 or 10 seconds. It's got to heat up a little thermocoupler like an old water heater. Then I should be able to let go and pick my temperature, and that oven should light up for you. And then just pick your, just like a normal oven, pick your temperature that you'd like. I'll turn that back off. Come back here to the thermostat. So this is just like your house. You got fan mode, cool mode, and heat mode. The only little trick on these guys is keep the fan mode on auto. It'll eliminate some annoying fans blowing cold air at you if you run your furnace. But don't worry too much about it. Just leave the fan mode on auto and it should solve most of your problems. Other than that, cycle through the modes and go to cool or heat and pick your temperature. Once again, you do need your generator running for your air conditioner, your microwave, TV, anything that plugs into the wall, so like your household plugs, and your fireplace. Everything else, including your furnace, will run on battery power and propane, as long as you got a good battery charge. We can take you in the bathroom here. So while that water pump is turned on for water pressure, you can push this pedal halfway down. It'll fill your bowl. Push the pedal all the way down, it'll dump the bowl. I do have RV specific toilet paper for you guys. If you guys need more more toilet paper, please buy RV specific. It'll help eliminate any issues for you. And run a good amount of water through there if you're using toilet paper. Occasionally things will get backed up inside the toilet itself, but running a good amount of water and using the RV specific toilet paper typically solves the issues for you. And yeah, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to give us a ring. We're happy to help. Thank you.